Okay, I'm Lean, and this is
Loo. Hello.
And this is our first video for our first short film concept that we're writing the script for. If you watched our previous video, then you know that we're writing a script. And in this video, we're going to talk about the challenge we've been set, what the concept is, and one of our three choices. Yes. So we have three concepts, and the plan is that I'm going to take the first one, which is this one, and write it out. Lou's going to take the second one, and the third one we're just going to kind of brainstorm together. And out of those three, we're going to pick one while we're in Korea to then look at locations, figure out more of the details of the stories. Obviously, it's going to be Korean-based, Korean acted in Korean films, so that's where our trip to Korea is going to give us all that necessary research. But in the meantime, we're going to thrash out the plot and figure it out. So this first one, using the concept of the 7 deadly sins, we also wanted to add plot twists, and we also wanted to make something with a bit of depth, something that gets you thinking, something with a little bit of mystery. So the first one we're titling Eternal Love, and this video is going to be about eternal love. Louise, do you want to give a summary of what our kind of idea for eternal love is?
But basically, there's a girl who is... There's a boy who has a crush on a girl, and she's on the pier, and he joins her on the pier, and she's surprised to see him because she hasn't seen him in over 2 weeks. He hasn't been at school. He's just disappeared, and so she asks him where he's been, and he says that he's moved away, and he no longer lives in her neighborhood, and he no longer goes to her school. And they get to chatting, and he says that they can hang out together after school and continue their friendship. And of course, he is utterly has a huge crush on her, and she regards him as a friend. So that's the first point of conflict, is that we have one character who's in love with the other character, and the other character is keeping him in the friend zone. So that's our first point of contention.
And sticking to true K-drama style, we're going to make it appear like romance and love is the central theme of eternal love. But it's not. We have to stick this with 7 minutes, so it's going to be a challenge. We're going to make the dialogue more like two people who are trying to find the way to romance, the way to deeper friendship. I don't know how much we want to thrash out on this video, because do we really want to be telling people our like little twists at the end? I suppose they can't really help vote on one of the short films if they don't know the outcome.
That is true. Let's talk about it, and if we decide against it, we can always edit it out. So so we would like to choose one of our filming locations to be a haunted property. Which
we've actually looked at pictures of one that was lovingly sent to us by our film producer Eugene. Creepiness, that derelict, we want that to be a scene in if we go for this script.
Yes,
which means that we're going to have to spend some time in Korea going to scary places, haunted places, and thinking about this, because obviously we want that as to be a part of the...
Exactly. So the premise that the boy keeps convincing the girl in our little short film to go and hang with him and come back to his house. And so she eventually gives in and goes to her friend's house to see where he lives. And so the first half of the short film is going to be about building his romance and expectations, and
building her trust for him too. Like, he's a boy she knows, this is a boy she gets on with, a boy she likes, this is a boy that she's very comfortable with.
Exactly. And eventually she says yes, and she goes with him back to his house. So our two main characters are of a high school age.
I was thinking the end of high school age, because we want him to be independent and not live with parents. So we want them at least 19, because at 19 they're kind of coming out of the Korean education system, and that's when they're considered adults. So we want them to be on the 19-year-old age. So he's probably got like a job and stuff that he's an independent person. We might even make them a bit older and put them in college.
Yeah. Okay, so he lures her back to his house. Lures, you can see where this is going. And she gets there, and it's like an abandoned home. We don't want to make it look too obviously abandoned because he's got to get her through the door.
The pictures that we looked at was like an apartment complex, but it wasn't until you looked at the pictures inside that it seems really derelict and downtrodden. But he has an excuse for that, though. He tells her that the reason that he's left college and stuff is that he's a bit down on his luck right now, and he's had to, you know, look at alternative accommodation that's free, and he's ended up in this downtrodden kind of out of the way place temporarily till he gets on his feet. But she's gonna love it because, you know, he's got his own little nook, his own little corner in this house, and she's gonna like it.
She's gonna like it. Yeah,
you're gonna love it, baby. So yeah,
he leads her into his new home. We could have the building suspense of them walking through the rooms, and she's now getting cold feet and she wants to leave, and she turns around and maybe she trips over something or something, she feels something at her feet. Yes. And she looks down, and there's a body on the floor
with rubble and dust and dirt, and it looks like part of the building has caved in and a rock has hit this person on the back of the head. The
person is dead.
She gasps and she's like, oh my god, there's a person here, we need to get help, and turns to her friend behind her who's casually, calmly standing by the doorway of the room he's led her into. Do we say more? Do we want to really like
I think let's leave it there.
What do you think happens when she turns to her friend? Do you think he's a murderer? Do you think he did it? Do you think it's something else? What do you think?
Yeah, leave a note in the comments how you think.
Because we know what the plan is, but we don't know whether we should share it, because if this is one we pick, we don't want to ruin the short film if you guys watch it. So.
Exactly.
It's obvious to us, but then we're both a bit twisted, so
yeah. I think that's perfect to leave it there.
This one's going to be called Eternal Love. This is going to be script number 1 of the choices. So the premise is going to feel very romantic, very young couple that possibly heading towards romance, him enticing her, someone that she knows and she went to college with, someone she trusts, and then derelict, scary building, dead body, cut to her turning to her friend who's standing very calmly. What do you think happens next?
Yes.
And then we might tell you.
We obviously have additional scenes coming in. We're not finishing the short film there, but we can't tell you everything. So
bear in mind it is 7 minutes. 7 minutes. It's gonna be hell on earth for 7 minutes.
Yes.
So yeah, that's premise number 1. If you want to know what premise number 2 is, then you'll have to watch the next video and premise number 3.
That's it. Perfect.
That's it. I think this is it for video number 2 of our writing a short script for our South Korean trip. So we'll see you in the next video. I'm Lean.
Sounds good.
And that's it. Bye.
Bye.